You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Are you ready? I'm saying, are you ready?
Watch us on YouTube. Listen on your favourite podcast platform. Or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Right, Chris.
Alrighty, welcome back. Nice to see you. There you go. I've got to tell you what, you are so much better than that audience we had last week. No, it is Sloppy Seconds. This is LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die. Good evening, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good night, goodbye, hello, wherever you are in the world tuning in. Whether Nate's coming back, I think maybe after the show earlier, he's probably deciding it might be best if he doesn't. And if you did miss the show earlier, let me tell you, you can find it right on this channel, LTID TV. It's under the pick. And if you want to learn and listen all about Surrey sausages, don't ask. Just do not ask. And Kate playing Hide the Sausage, don't ask about that again. It was more like Let's Talk Food. And I think it was when Kate came up with Hide the Sausage, I think we just totally lost it. But in between all of that, there's about 5 minutes of football that we were talking about the weekend's game, so you can listen to that. But look, this afternoon's, good God, I'm losing it. This evening's show is a preview of tomorrow night's game, which we're hosting Sunderland, which I thought was going to be one of our more difficult games, but they didn't have such a good weekend. But we will be talking to Patrick, a fan of Sunderland. He'll be joining in a second. But like I say, it is Sloppy Seconds, and as such, who could I not enjoy a sloppy second with any more than this man? Craig, my sloppy second partner, how the devil are you?
I'm good, thanks, Chris. Thank you for choosing me to be your sloppy second.
That's okay. Patrick is sat in the back now thinking, sausages, sloppy, what the hell have I come on to here? This is probably unlike any other football channel he's been on, would you say?
I would imagine so, yeah. I mean, he'll probably need a shower afterwards. Probably
a delouse. But talking about a delouse, you didn't go to Wales at the weekend.
No, I didn't. No.
What a good result.
Yeah, I think we talked about it before, didn't we? And every game we go into thinking this is going to be the toughest game. And, by all accounts, they put up a very good show, Swansea. But
yeah,
I think it's that thing of sticking to the process and believing in the process that you will make chances, and then just making sure that we do take them when we get them. So
we do.
We just plow on.
The Swansea gentleman said they were going to sort of come at us. I don't know if you've seen any of the highlights yet. Would you say they did?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and I didn't speak to, but I listened to their manager's comments after the game as well. And I think he was saying that from their perspective, there was a lot of positives to take from the game for them. Just certain bits went for them and went for us and didn't go for them. They hit the bar, and I think we had a couple of good saves. but again, we're proving to be fairly clinical, and I think that's the key. It's all right creating chances, but you've got to take them, and we seem to be taking them at the moment. And I think we just wear teams down.
Yes, we do. We do. And I think that first goal should be up there for goal of the season.
Yannick's, of course.
Yeah, Yannick. Yes.
Well,
How did you have to think about that?
But I mean, people saying, "Oh, he bundled it in," but if you watch it carefully, he had a striker's instinct to be on the move when the ball came in. So I think it's the first
there,
of many.
You've got to be there. Yeah. But the Great Dane, I'm so pleased that he scored a goal. But I'm also really, really pleased that we can say hello to Patrick. Good evening, Patrick. A Sunderland fan. How the devil are you, sir?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, guys. How are you doing?
Not three bad. Not three bad.
Thanks, Patrick.
I can just about understand the Sunderland accent a hell of a lot better than I can a Newcastle one.
Yeah, there's some distinct differences, but to be honest, I mean, there's stronger Sunderland accents than mine, so yeah, not a bad choice to come on.
Thank God for that. That's one thing I'm not missing about the Premier League, and that's Newcastle's accents when we have them on pre. But thanks very much for coming on. I know it was short notice, but tell everybody where they can find you.
What is it, myself?
I'm on all your podcasts, etc.
Yeah, so I'm one of the contributors to Roker Report podcast. We have a podcast and a website where we have all the latest sort of news and views. There's tons of us contributing to Sunderland content. But yeah, we're on Twitter, Instagram, and Spotify, and all the usual podcast spots. So yeah, we get around.
yeah, well, yeah. Don't say that too loud. But no, Nate's come back for more, and welcome, Nate. Even after the show earlier, you are back. It was a wild one. Mike's in. Good evening, Mike. He said, from the bits I've seen, Swansea look decent. They're probably one of the best. Well, yeah, I'd probably say one of the better games we've played this season. I mean, for me, Craig, and I held DH, how are you? I did say, didn't I, last week, that Swansea and Sunderland, once you got past Leicester and Ipswich, are obviously first and second, they are the teams that are like third and fourth in the form table.
Yeah.
And then Craig's got Enzo ringing him up asking, what team am I picking tomorrow?
I know. He won't leave me alone. It's quite embarrassing.
I'm sure it is. You can get a restraining order out,
Well, while he's listening to me, I'll carry on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those teams will be up and around it. I think there's quite a bunch. I think, as we mentioned in the Swansea preview, it's teams that can keep their first team fit or have a little bit of depth to the squad. I think will be the ones who can hang around longest in there. Obviously, Sunderland have got a decent first 11 and some real top quality players in amongst that, but I'm not sure about the strength of depth. I'm sure Patrick can give us a bit more of insight into the squad depth up at Sunderland.
But yeah, I mean, sort of our first 11 is good. There's a lot of quality there, but you touched on there about keeping them fit. That's been a real issue, not just this season, but last season as well. It seems like we've always had several key players out injured, and we've just not been able to get everyone fit at the same time. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be the same tomorrow night as well. But Tony Mowbray had his press conference earlier today, and he said that there's 3 or 4 players who played on Saturday who didn't train today. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to play tomorrow, but it's not great when players aren't training the day before a match. So yeah, we'll just have to sort of wait and see. Yeah. But we don't know who that is until the lineup's out, really.
No, and we've given up trying to predict the lineup, haven't we, Craig?
We haven't.
He just fixed it. Score a goal, and there's no guarantee you're going to be in the starting lineup the following week. But he does switch it round, and I think rather than go for if you played Saturday, you don't play midweek. I think he's actually gone, hasn't he, Craig? Where you're going to play 60 minutes on Saturday, and then you play 30 minutes, and if you did the 30 minutes, then you'll probably start the game on the midweek.
Yeah, he does tend to do that. I think he's managing, their workload, but also, as we touched on before, keeping players fresh so that when you do need them, it's a physical league. Somebody could get injured after 5 minutes. That the replacements are fresh and ready to go. And I think he's touched on that quite a bit. Particularly, he was talking about the Swansea game and the fact that the sort of cheerleaders in the changing room before the game were the subs, and they were the most vocal ones about, usually subs are upset that they're not playing, but he seems to be engendering this whole squad ethic that everybody's got a part to play. And a lot of the squad and the bench players were the most vocal ones in geeing up everyone else. So that all bodes well as well.
It does. I've got to say hi to Del Boy, big Arsenal fan from Ireland. What's the crack? Bleed. Well, if he says bleeding, we're quite lucky because the amount of swear. I don't know how his channel's still online. I really don't know, Del. I've never, even by my standards, you do swear an awful lot. But welcome along. Look, Patrick, we're usually going to start. Well, I say usually. We're going to start from this week. We're going to start the shows off where we actually just have a look at somebody who's played for both teams and sort of get the memories going. And this is one that you probably have, a lot more memories than we have. But your memories of Big Kev there, Patrick?
Well, to be honest, Phillips was just before my time, but that doesn't really matter when you're a Sunderland fan because, my dad, like everybody else who's a bit older than me, loved him. And I've seen, I grew up watching the highlights of all of his, all the brilliant goals he scored for Sunderland over the years, and unfortunately, the only time I saw him score at the Stadium of Light was for Aston Villa. So that was, that was unfortunate. It's the one time I've seen Kevin Phillips score in the flesh, and it was, it was for a visiting team at the Stadium of Light. But no, I mean,
still a legend up there, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's one of the best strikers we've ever had, really, and he's part of a really good team, which obviously, over the years that have passed, a lot of people say that we could have gone a step or two further with the players what we had, but I mean, for the idea I get of those couple of years where we were doing really well in the Premier League, at the sort of turn of the millennium, I mean, Phillips was a massive part of that, and you say he's a legend, and it gets thrown around a lot, but I mean, you can't really describe him in any other way from a Sunderland perspective.
Yeah. I'm going to upset Patrick now because he hasn't seen Kevin Phillips score for his team, but I have actually seen Kevin Phillips score for my team. Sorry, Patrick. One of the best strikers you ever had. One of the oldest, I think, we ever had, if not the oldest, Craig.
Yeah, I did have the pleasure of seeing him score for both teams, but he was almost like a throwback striker of just a natural finisher in that old thing where, the goals don't move. He was an instinctive finisher. With the ball dropped to him, he would always try and get a shot off. And sadly, lacking in the modern game, those kind of strikers. And I think, at that level, and no disrespect, but for Sunderland, for somebody to be the Golden Boot winner at a team like Sunderland or Leicester was at that time, is testament to the quality of the player.
Yeah, I'm guessing the goal that you saw him score for Sunderland was against Leicester in a game that we're going to talk about later on.
It might well be. It might well be, which
was the 5-2. We will quickly move on from that, though. I mean, the game I saw him in, which again might have been the one you saw him, was down at Bournemouth. In our championship winning season. I don't know if he was the oldest player to play for us or the oldest player to score for us.
Yeah, it might have been the latter because I think we've had a few. Well, we've had a few goalkeepers, haven't we? Who have
That's
been.
true. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Mark Schwarzer was about 63 when he played for us. So,
Allegedly.
Mm.
But I mean, after he played for us that season, Craig, he actually went on to be a coach, didn't he? I think that's
Yeah.
why he came to us, because we said, like, have a season, help us get up, and then become a coach. And the thing I do remember, probably unfairly looking back, but at the time, in that first season, the strikers weren't doing particularly well, were they? Because not obviously until the last 7 or 8 games, but up until then, we were at the bottom, and we ended up being the Great Escape. But I can remember doing the artwork and actually saying, what is this guy actually doing? Do you think I was being unfair?
Well, I think we do the same, don't we, to everyone? If it's, I remember us having a so-called set piece coach when we were letting set piece goals in every week.
Did we? I don't remember having one.
Well, I mean, Torre was the classic. Brought in as a defensive coach, Colo Torre, and we were just leaking goals left, right, and centre. I think you do talk about, and I think it's something that isn't around as much in football, or if it is, it's not made knowledgeable as it is in American football, that you have specialist coaches. And I would imagine for strikers, you couldn't really get much more of a better specialist coach than Kevin Phillips. However, having said that, I think goal scoring is a natural instinct, and you either have it or not, and it's very difficult to coach it. I think you can coach certain elements of it, positioning, movement a little bit. That ability to take half a second when you get into a goal scoring opportunity. But I think it's instinctive, and he was an instinctive player. But I'm surprised that he hasn't gone on to a bit more prominence in the coaching world. To be honest, I'm not sure where he is at the moment.
No, I'm not either. Patrick, talk to us about Tony Mowbray. How long's he been there? Are you happy with him?
Yeah, I mean, so we've had Mowbray just over a year now. It was a year at the end of August, and obviously he came in. It was a crazy week, to be honest. On one Saturday, we had Alex Neil was our head coach. We went down to Stoke. We won 1-0. And then there was murmurings in the week about Alex Neil going to Stoke. At the start of the week, I remember thinking, it would be typical Sunderland if we were to lose a manager to a team we've just beat. Lo and behold, about a week later, he went to Stoke. We had a home game on that Saturday, and it was an early kickoff, and we had obviously Neil wasn't there. He was, I think he was down in Stoke at that point, and we had our sort of backroom staff in charge. And then following Wednesday, we had another home game, and Mowbray's in charge. So it was, it was a crazy sort of week and a half. And at the time when Mowbray came in, I must admit I wasn't blown away by it. I remember my first thought was, he'll keep us up. And, after 4 years in League One, maybe that's all we need. But, in all fairness, I mean, he's done a brilliant job. I know we've had some tough results these last couple of weeks. So I had the international break, but I mean, some of the football he's got us playing, it's some of the best I've seen, really. I mean, I've seen all 4 years in League One, and those were the darkest times in the club's history.
Yeah.
But to have someone in charge who's just got us, it's no sort of secret that we have quite a young squad. And Mowbray, he's got this kind of idea of just kind of letting the young players go out and almost just express themselves. And, that could have been a bit of a gamble. There's been a lot of talk about us, not having enough seniority in the squad. But, I mean, it's one of these where when we click, where we can be fantastic. And we've basically had a year of that. We had a bit of a slow start before last Christmas. We were sort of moving around in mid-table and not really, setting the world alight, but still on course for a pretty comfortable finish. And then it was after Christmas where, things just seemed to, despite all these injuries, things just clicked. And then, all of a sudden we're sort of knocking on the door of the playoffs, and last day of the season we're making it the top six. So yeah, it's not been dull under Mowbray. That's fair to say. It's there's never a boring week with Mowbray in charge.
I'm just looking at it. How you say you finished sixth, you're in the playoffs. Have you still got that young owner?
Yes, yeah, we do. Yeah.
And do you think is he backing financially the club? Because you say came so close last season, and I always think it's a shame when you look at the likes of, say, Coventry this season. They've struggled to build on what they had, and Blackburn are the same. They only just missed out, and they've kind of not built on that. Have you carried on where you've left off? Would you say?
I think so. I would say we have. We brought in around sort of a dozen players in the summer. We kind of had our window was quite interesting because we basically signed like half of our players in one batch at the start of the window. Then it went quiet for quite a while, and then we signed 4 players on deadline day, and I think we ended up with about a dozen new signings, and most of those were kind of following the blueprint of what we're trying to bring into the club. We're trying to bring in young players who are good prospects and maybe need a club to go and develop, which is why it can be quite frustrating at times, because it does feel like we're very much developing for a couple of years down the line. And when you have so many young players, there is things are going to go wrong every now and again. And there's been a couple of games under Mowbray where he's got things wrong, and players have made mistakes, individual mistakes, but then the next week we put it right, and then the manager makes the right decisions and everything seems to click. So yeah, I think we're definitely that. You can see it's a very clear kind of project we have on the go, and yeah, I mean, it's, for me it's good because we had so many years of mismanagement and signing players who were just were there for a big payday really, and they didn't you don't expect many professional footballers to be there for the club passionately, but we just went through years and years of just signing very bad players who didn't want to be there. So it's a big change of what we're trying to implement at the minute, and yeah, it is a slow process, but it's one that I'm really enjoying, and the last sort of year and a bit have been fantastic, really.
Yeah, I mean, Craig, playoff semi-finalists, Sunderland losers last season. We know all about the playoffs, don't we? What do you? Looking at them from the outside, how do you sort of look at Sunderland? Do you look at them as one of the teams that's going to be up there?
I think so. I mean, it's a massive and fantastic, supporter base up there. I've had the pleasure of going to Roker Park and Stadium of Light, and I do remember it was called the Roker Roar back in the day.
He's older than you, Patrick. Don't worry.
Yeah. But I can, Tony Mowbray is an interesting one because he seems to be like a 3 or 4 season manager. He comes in, he does a really good job, gets his team up and around playoffs or on the brink of things, and then it tends to go wrong. I mean, it does with most managers, but for some reason with Tony Mowbray, it seems to disappear. But what he does at the start of his tenure is so fantastic that his stock has never really dipped, even though he's been with a lot of clubs. I don't think he'll ever be out of work as long as he wants to be in work. But Sunderland, I can see as a club, and I'm sure the supporters would love it as being a club that can bring local players through. because Newcastle, with the best one in the world, and I'm sorry to mention them in a Sunderland podcast kind of thing, are never going to be a team that consistently now bring through local youngsters. I can't see it happening with the money that they're going to throw at it. It's going to be a really tough opportunity. So the likes of Middlesbrough, Sunderland have a perfect opportunity to start developing their own youngsters, I think, and that could be the backbone of some successful times for Sunderland. And I can imagine that same way as we do, every supporter loves it when their own come through the ranks. So I don't know what the setup is behind the scenes at Sunderland, but I don't think any other football fan wouldn't have anything but respect for the fact that the Sunderland fans have been with them all the way through the dark times and have been there and turned out in the numbers. And I think it's a Tuesday night at Leicester, and I think you've sold out the allocation quite easily again. So, you know, it's one of those sort of clubs, I guess, similar to us, that if it all clicked at one point, you could be successful again. But no, I think they'll be up there, as I say, if they can keep their top players fit. I mean, Jack Clark looks like a fantastic talent. He's one of those that how long you're going to hang on to him for. And when you get players like that, you need to try and make sure that you can capitalize on them during the period that they're there, because he'll be your sort of, you know, your main star, and you need everybody to pull in that season when he's at the top of his game before he gets snapped up. And, you know, and Leicester are a similar club in that way that, you know, top talents are still going to be snapped up. So you need everything to come together in that perfect season almost. And hopefully you can hang on to him for at least another season after this one. But the way he's going, I'm not sure you will.
David, I just want to say thank you to David. He literally just become a new member. It's $1.99 a month. The link is in the description below on YouTube. Just click on it. There's a lot of extras you get, one of our regular presenters now, Luke, started out as a member, gets you the chance to come on and do a live show. He enjoyed it so much that he does it every week now, all the way from Australia. But David, you're a gentleman, sir. Thank you so very, very much for doing that. Just going back to that though, Paddy, what is your youth system like there? Because we've got a very good youth system, in fairness. In fact, this season we've seen, you know, a lot of those young, 3 or 4 maybe coming through, 2 of them especially. But what's it like at Sunderland?
To be honest, even through the sort of really rough times, we always had quite a strong academy. The problem was previous owners would be keen on selling players for pennies, basically, just because they thought they could make a bit of money off them. But under this new sort of regime now, it's so much better. Our under 21s, week in, week out, they're improving. But also, I mean, our number 1 goalkeeper, Anthony Patterson, academy product. He played every league game last season. He played every league game this season. But I mean, I think at the minute, the kind of, the shining example is it's Dan Neil, who, central midfielder, who he's come on, even in the sort of dozen games this season. I mean, he was good last season. You could see there was a top player there, but he's come on so much this season, and he looks so. It's more just, we've always known he's going to be a good player, but it's the way he's just been able to just build so quickly. There was on deadline day, there was, rumours flying around that Liverpool were looking at him, and, you kind of like brush it off a bit, think, no, it's just, speculation and that. But to be honest, if he keeps up, if he keeps up the way he started this season, then, I think there will be teams of that size looking at him, because he looks like the complete package in a central midfielder. And I'm very pleased that he's back from suspension for tomorrow night, because we missed him on Saturday. There was a big hole in our midfield when he couldn't play.
Well, yes, we'll come on to the Saturday's results in a minute, but just showing the table there with our superb goal scorer, Twinkle Feet Yannick there. But look, you're sat in sixth. I'd definitely got you to finish second this season. We did a review the quarter season. I've got you because I think you are literally going to be I thought on the rise. Your last couple of results have shocked me, and I got no points in the prediction league at all from your last two games. Thank you so very much. I just thought I would make that right because I had you down for 2 wins. But as you look at that, what do you look at Leicester and think about this season?
I mean, I've not been able to watch too many of your games, but I mean, I've watched the highlights back, and the impression I get is that in so many games you've not started great, but then you build into it to a point where other teams just can't really keep up. I mean, I think was it the game down at Blackburn? I think was a good example where I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you scored like 2 or 3 of your goals quite late on. And you guys were saying there before that it was a case of you kind of wear teams down, and I think having that ability to do that to teams in the Championship, it's what successful teams do, really. And I mean,
we've seen a lot of teams, virtually every team. I think Craig would agree with me, that's come to Leicester, and it's almost a case of they've looked at us or playing us, whether it's at home or away, and thinking, we'll take a point here before we've even kicked off. And was it Stoke that didn't so much park the bus as built a bloody coach park, but they just didn't get out of their own half. I think we had 90% possession in the first 15 minutes. Swansea, mind you, they came at us at the weekend. They went 1-0 up. Are we going to see a Sunderland side? You are away from home, and you are, we've only lost 1 game all season. That did happen to be at home, but are you a team that's going to come and defend and say we're going to be happy with the point, or are you going to come and give it a go at us?
I think we'll give it a go, to be honest. Funny enough, we tend to play our better football away from home, and our home record, I think last season we won 7 home games. We finished 6th, but we only won 7 home games because I think away from home we won 10. And I think we went to Burnley and got a draw. We won at Norwich. Lost narrowly to Sheffield United. Got a point at Luton. So I think we tend to be a team who play better away from home. Obviously, Leicester are a different prospect to some of the other away games we've had in recent weeks. We went down to Blackburn, and Blackburn was a strange one because we tend to start on the front foot, but watching the Blackburn game, and after 10 minutes, Blackburn should have been 2-0 up. We just couldn't get a foot on the ball. But all of a sudden, it just takes a switch in the middle of the park, and we get hold of the ball, and then when we get it down and we play, we just look like a different team. I think we'll come and have a go. I think we'll be so keen to try and get back on track, really, and it's It is it's a formidable record we're going up against, but I'd like to think we'll come and have a go.
I've got to say it is a formidable record. We've just completed our best ever run of away wins, and this is obviously officially now the best ever start to by any team in this division since it's been called the Championship. I mean, Craig, when you watch Leicester, it's kind of. Sometimes I laugh because, we talked about Yannick earlier, but, I know you didn't used to like Johnny Evans because, he'd stand on the ball. Well, I think even Yannick puts Johnny makes him look like Usain Bolt because he just stands on the ball. But we invite the opposition onto us. I say, right, if you want it, come and get it, and then we'll ping a lovely through ball. Again, do you see that changing for tomorrow night?
No, I think it's ingrained now, and I only saw a little bit, but I watched excuse me, I saw 10-15 minutes of the Leicester women against Man City, and it's exactly the same. And I think that football is going to be drilled into every team at every level, at every age. This is the way that they want to play, so they can start that process, that almost conveyor belt manufacturing line of talent who can fit in and play. You know, he's come from Man City. He's seen how Man City have done, and Man City do it, you know, year in, year out, that they seem to be successful at whatever level, and they do manage to bring in a few youngsters. Cole Palmer, obviously the most recent one, and then sold him for sort of 40 million to Chelsea. So I can't see us changing, you know, at all, let alone for a single game. Although I do expect Sunderland to prove a real challenge for us, because I think they've got some really good players and players who can hit on the break. So if there is a turnover of the ball, we could be in trouble. I think this is going to be a really tough game for us, to be honest.
I must admit, although I did go for a 2-1 Leicester win in the end, and we were close, Craig. We were close, weren't we? With that. It was interesting to see, and we'll get your prediction later, but the Swansea guy went for 2-1 Leicester win. No, he went 3-1. No, I think he got it right. The Swansea guy actually got it right by saying that Leicester would beat his team 3-1. But I actually thought that these two games, and we've said this all the way through the season, but to me, I thought, Swansea and Sunderland, they're going to be two really tough games. But every time we've said that, when we played the likes of Southampton, who were sort of supposed to be one of our, you know, up there with us, we blew them away. Preston, God knows how they got to where they are, because they were one of the most awful teams I've seen in quite a few years. And that's saying something when we watched ourselves last season. But we have been done. And then I thought, no, I've gone for the win. And then I've gone for a draw. And I think I did go for a 2-2 draw for this one. But I am thinking now, Craig, that actually what's going to stop us? I don't mean this to sound really big-headed, Patrick, you know, because you've got to remember 12 months ago that we were sat here slitting our wrists and hanging ourselves from the light fitting. So it is fun for us to be this happy. But, Craig, where's the first defeat? Is this could potentially, you think, be our first defeat? Our second defeat, I should say.
Second defeat, yeah. Yes. I'm not sure. I'm you know, we'll come on to the predictions later, but there are going to be games where, you know, we can play well, but we just give up a couple of chances and the opposition take those chances. I think it's unrealistic to expect us to continue without having any bad luck, for instance, you know, at some point. I was talking to a work colleague of mine today who's had a side bet with his brother that we will win every game between now and the new year, and I did suggest that I think he'd gone a little bit early there, and he's probably put the mockers on it for tomorrow. But you know, you've got to be realistic. There are going to be games. What we need to do, that if we do get a setback like we did against Hull, it's a one-off, and then we bounce back in the next game. So, but you're right. We had consecutive away games at Southampton and Norwich, and I think we came out, what was it, 7-1 in aggregate over the two games. And every time we say this is going to be the tough game, I think we're still in the process of underestimating ourselves, you know. Yeah. But that comes with being a Leicester fan. I think we've had so many years of overestimating ourselves, and pushing our limits as to where we should be for so many years.
I think we can definitely say that pinching ourselves is very, very close to self-abuse at the moment.
But you know, I think it's funny because it's been an education, and I think the fans have had to be educated just as much as the players in what Maresca wants. Because the first couple of games, when it was slow-paced football, the fans were not happy at all. They were getting on their back a little bit and wanted the ball moving forward. Yeah, and with every game, I think there's more and more understanding that there is at least a process behind it. I think under our previous dear departed manager, whose name shall be not mentioned, it was slow, but there didn't seem to be a plan. So we could turn it on and have a great game, or we could be absolutely shocking. I think under Maresca, there's a clear plan. Everybody's bought into it. Most of the fans have bought into it, and we do know that if we are patient, then we can we'll make chances and we'll create goals. It'll be interesting if we ever, and let me touch wood to make sure this doesn't happen. If we ever go 2 goals down, that'll be interesting. That'll be a real challenge to the players, I think, for how much they trust the process. When it's 1, you think, okay, we will create chances. If you go a couple of goals down, then that will see what we're made of. But
I mean, I've got to say, Patrick, we have got a mistake in us within our defensive setup. Thank God we've got a keeper who spends more of his time as a sweeper than he does actually as a goalkeeper. But we do have that mistake in us, and so far we have been very lucky in that the teams we've played have not taken advantage of that. They've not. Most of the time when they have broken through, we have made a mistake. They've not really taken advantage of it. Do you have a team? Does your team? Would you say that that's something they could do?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's no secret that a lot of our attack and play goes through Jack Clark. But he's been far and away our best player so far this season. But we do have plenty of players who can punish mistakes like that. Obviously we got Patrick Roberts, who was brilliant last season. For one reason or another, he's just not really got. He showed glimpses of that form this season. But
he's ex-Man City, isn't he?
Yes, yeah.
I really like him. I think he's a dangerous player. On his day, he's a really dangerous player, I think.
That's the thing. He's one of these players where, he perfectly fits that example of on his day, he's brilliant. It's just his day, well, he's not really had his day this season. Yeah, there's such a sort of flash in the pan sort of player, but he's easy on the eye. But yeah, he's just got to get back to sort of having of end product really. But no, I mean, like I said, we'll be there from the off, and I think we do have the players where if there was a mistake, I think we can punish teams. But yeah, it's whether you decide to make any mistakes tomorrow night.
I'm sure we will. Craig, I want to get you answer that one. Boris, there, I did say that this is what he would like. We are capable of boring the opposition into submission. I suppose one man's boring is another man's wearing the opposition out.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, and I do remember even going back to when Pep was at Barcelona. The last couple of seasons of watching Barcelona, it was becoming boring and repetitive. And I think even with this Man City side, I think he had a season where it didn't look that great because you didn't have the players to really put the plans in. I think what you need is players who have got a change of pace, so that when you do break through, that you've got pace to be able to exploit it. And I think if you haven't, it can become boring and repetitive. And I think they just what we do, I think we do run the legs off teams because it's so hard to just consistently chase the ball. But I think what we do, and is probably not recognized as much, is that we mentally run them ragged. And I think that's it, because it takes a lot to be constantly concentrating on your positioning, constantly concentrating on who's making runs off the ball, running in behind, because we're so fluid. And I think that's where we break teams down. It's not just the physical, but the mental side. And we've seen it 2 or 3 times where defenses have just made sort of sloppy mistakes in the latter parts of games, and we've punished them. So I think we are a real challenge for most teams, and as you hear it, as most managers are saying these days, that we are becoming a sort of benchmark for them to understand at what level they're at.
Yeah. And like I say, I mean, Iheanacho comes off the subs bench, 87th minute. I still don't know how he scored that one, but he did. Look, I mean, Patrick, I'm looking at this here, and this is the form table. And I'm, sorry to do this, but you got up there, you got a loss to Middlesbrough, 4-0, who of course was one of Tony Mowbray's ex-clubs. How you managed that, I don't know, because I had you down for a draw for that one, with it being a derby, and I had you beating Stoke. What has happened? And I think when we look at the fact that you've won 6. Like us, you've not drawn many. We haven't drawn any. You've drawn 1, but you've lost 5. It seems to be an inconsistent, or a consistency problem for you.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, the last couple of games, I hate to, I don't like to think of it as sort of making excuses, but
No.
In our last 2 games, we've had 2 pretty bad refereeing decisions go against us. We had Dan Neil sent off for a second yellow card for, it was supposedly, I mean, he's mouthed off at the ref, but it's one of these where, it'll happen hundreds of times in every match. And it's the fact that, Tony Mowbray came out and said after the game that the referee told both managers that he was going to basically try and keep his cards in his pocket and try and let the game flow. And with that in mind, you kind of think for that sort of thing, he wouldn't be pulling out a second yellow card. But to me, I mean, that doesn't excuse the way we just fell apart in the second half. And in all fairness, I'm a big fan of Tony Mowbray, but the second half he got it completely wrong. We went. I think we conceded 2 in about 2-3 minutes. Went 2-0 down, and it just killed the game off really there and then. But we had the players on the bench to bring on and make an impact. And yeah, he just didn't get the subs right whatsoever, in my opinion. It's Stoke. I mean, their first goal, it's a pretty clear handball. Their lads controlled it and he's knocked it down in front of him. But again, that was inside 10 minutes and after 15 minutes it was 1-1. We had plenty of time to get back into it. And I mean, to be honest, I was at the game on Saturday. Second half performances, it was the worst I've seen us this season. We're never normally that sloppy, and we gave the ball away.
What I'm hearing, Paddy, is Mowbray out?
No, not a chance. It's just it's one of these where when Mowbray gets it right, it really clicks. But when he doesn't, it's like everything goes wrong at once. And yeah, it's annoying that these 2 defeats have come either side of the international break, because obviously you're kind of hoping you bounce back after a defeat. But yeah, we had those 2 weeks, and
I'll tell you what I'm hearing here is I'm hearing the very obvious. It's a game of 2 halves, and as long as we've got them to 0-0 at half time, Craig, the second half we might, we could send 5 out and we'll score a couple of goals.
Sounds like it.
You're saying your second halves, you're not turning up.
Well, that's the thing, because that's changed from earlier in the season. I mean, I think we went on a run where I think we won like 5 in 7 or 4 on the bounce or something earlier in the season, and we were killing teams off late on. Even you got on there when we beat Watford. We scored right at the end of the first half, and then Watford were kind of sitting deep and trying to catch us out and obviously get that equaliser. But then we finished them off, and last season that was a bit of an issue with us, and not being able to finish teams off when we had the lead. A lot of our draws came through that. But yeah, again, I think it boils down to just an inconsistency, really. I mean, there's a reason why we've won 6 and lost 5 so far this season. It's like we could be great. When we're great, we're great. When we're off it, we're really off it at the minute.
Yeah.
Patrick, just a quick one. A thing that was, and I did it. I would have a pop at our team over the last couple of seasons for having a lack of character. Do you think that's something that may be lacking in your guys, if you've got quite a few youngsters in there that Have you got character? Have you got leaders, or when it starts to go wrong, is it difficult to turn it round?
I think we do. No, we do have some pretty big personalities in the squad. I do just think, obviously one of the downsides to having a young squad is that, especially in a home game and with the Middlesbrough game as well, we concede a few goals, and even when you go 3-4-0 down at home, even seasoned professionals, that hits them hard. When you've got lads there who, are just breaking into first team football, I mean, I guess it's in a way it's a good lesson to learn because it's a good experience to have, but ideally you don't have that experience. But no, we do have we have good experience in the dressing room and on the pitch. I think it's just making sure that when we do go down, the heads don't drop, and a lot of the time that doesn't happen, but the last couple of games I just feel like that's been drifting in a little bit, and I don't know if that's just it's a thing of like we're just trying to tinker a bit and trying to figure out what, because personally I don't quite think we know what our sort of strongest 11 is, but a lot of that is down to just I said earlier about the injuries we've had. It seems like we've always had about half a dozen players out injured and unavailable, so it's been so hard to try and figure out what that strongest team's going to be, and it's just wondering when that chance is going to come, really.
Yeah.
With there, Greg, when you look at that, I mean, how good does it look? Green.
Yeah.
I want to sort of I think we should have Tom Jones come on the pitch before the start of the game and sing about the green grass is home. And look, I can say about it, I don't want to come across as sort of gloating or anything, but just you've got to understand how we were feeling last season. I mean, we've won more games so far this season than we won in the whole of last season. Always got more points as well, I think, haven't we? But it's good, isn't it, Craig?
I think the only downside to this is that if we carry on the way we are, then we've got to go back up and put up with VAR and all the horrible stuff that comes with the Premier League.
I was going to mention VAR because you're saying about the referees, Patrick, but Craig, I sit and I do the watch-alongs for the games, and I'm about to shout at the referee and go, what the bloody hell are you? And I'm thinking, no, hang on, because that is better than having a VAR decision, because at some point during the game, he'll make a decision. And I can kind of look at that and go, you know what? He's a human. He's had to make that judgment very quickly. And yeah. I can allow for that. And I've got to be honest with you. I don't know if it's just me, but I know Patrick will argue with this, but Craig, I found the refereeing in this division has been a hell of a lot better than it was even with VAR in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen so far, because I think they manage or they referee more on what they've been taught.
Yeah.
How they've come up through the ranks, and then all of a sudden you become a Premier League referee, and you've got this catch-all, get out of jail free card that you can play at any point. So they just refer, and you do watch some of the Premier League football, and you just think, what are you actually watching? You're giving yellow cards away for people based on reactions of players rather than any physical fouls or whatever. And it does seem that in the Championship, there's a little bit more of that physicality allowed, which is great. I mean, apart from the fact that we're not in the Premier League, I know it does help when you're winning. But there is a lot to like about football in the Championship. It's a lot closer, I think, to the football that at least you and me grew up with, Chris.
Yeah, proper football. And just saying about we having Tom Jones singing "Green Grass of Home." Apparently, Liverpool are going to walk out of the next home game to Robin Thicke's "Blurred Lines." I don't know how true that is, and that's lost us all our Liverpool support. But before we come on to picking the team, I'm going to come to you both with this one. I'll come to you first, Patrick. Couple of players and their positions, because obviously we don't know your players that you think are going to cause us problems tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned him a few times, but Jack Clark, he's out on the left wing.
Mm.
I mean, a lot of our play tends to go towards him. One of the benefits of Clark is that, most of the teams we've played, and when he's had most of his success, it's through players, the opposition defenders doubling up on him and obviously freeing up space for players across the pitch, really. So yeah, I mean, he'll be the main man once again. I would have thought. Other players, Job Bellingham, he's been brilliant so far this season. He came into it, and obviously we signed him in the summer. Didn't quite realise that he was going to go straight into the first team. But I mean, I think if I'm right in saying, I think he's pretty much started all of our games, and he doesn't look like he's 18 years old. He's got a lot of his brother in him, because he's just really really tidy on the ball, and hopefully, 'cause he played centre mid on Saturday, which is obviously a little bit further behind the sort of number 10 role where we like to have him playing. Hopefully he can be in that role again tomorrow night. So yeah, I think that's where you sort of tend to see the best out of him. And yeah, if I had to pick a third one, probably Dan Neil. Like I said, he's been such an instrumental part of that midfield. And yeah, obviously he had a 1-game suspension. He's back and available, so I'd imagine he'll go straight back in to the team. So yeah, I think if those three all play, and obviously they're fit and firing, we'll look much stronger.
Yeah. If you did just see me smiling, and I wasn't smiling, it just come to my mind about what we were talking about in the show earlier. So I apologise for that. Craig, I was asked when I did a preview on for the Swansea game on a Swansea channel to just name one Leicester player, and I've got to be honest with you, I really, really struggled because, well, look, just look how we're playing. But can you pick 2 or 3 that will cause the most problems to Sunderland?
Yeah, I think a couple of like it is with any player, is if they're on their game on the day. I think both wingers, if they play, I think they will both play, because I think it looks like we've got a couple of injury problems with the backup wingers. So Mavadidi and Fatawu, I think on their day they can cause anybody problems, and it'll be interesting to see how strong your fullbacks are and how they hold their positions, because our wingers will hold their positions. They won't be coming and drifting inside and narrowing the pitch at any point. They're told to hug the touchline, the old-fashioned, get the chalk on your boots. So we will keep that back line of yours stretched fully. So it'll be interesting to see how Mowbray sets up his back lines, whether he likes to play narrow and protect the goalposts, or whether he strings players out a little bit more. Because then you've got, depending on if he's going to play Vardy, who's going to run in behind, or Iheanacho, who's going to come short and then leave gaps in behind. But also, I think if he's on his game, Dewsbury Hall, he's been very inconsistent this season. But by all accounts, he had a great game at Swansea, and I think he's near the top for goal involvements in assists and goals this season. And his driving runs from the middle of the park are dangerous as well. So I'd say the 2 wingers and then KDH would be the ones.
Well, it's down to that time. Before we let you go, Patrick, it is score prediction time. So I'm going to go to Craig first, because then I can pinch his idea. What score are you going for this one for, Craig?
Well, I had to put mine in earlier before the weekend's games for Prediction League anyway, and I'm going to stick with it, because I don't think we can have a free run at every game. So I'm going to go for a 2-2.
You know, I don't actually believe this. I was joking when I said copy your thing, but I actually because it was a double header in the prediction league this week. I had to we all had to get ours in early, and it's always a bit of a gamble with the second game because you don't know how the first games are going to go. And I've actually gone for a Desmond as well, so I have gone for a 2-2. Great minds, Craig. Great minds.
That's it. Yeah. Exactly.
Patrick.
Well, I was that surprised me actually because I was expecting at least one of you to go for a Leicester win, but no, that makes me feel a little bit better. No, to be honest,
you can go for a Leicester win if you want, Patrick.
The Swansea guy did, and we worked out for us.
To be honest, I mean, it's a sort of game where Sunderland have a tendency to lose a game we expect us to win and then go and get a result in one we don't. I mean, last season we lost 5-1 at home to Stoke, and then a couple of weeks later we drew 0-0 at Burnley. So if I can stick by that logic, I'm going to go for 1-1 draw.
You're going to go for a 1-1 draw. We're all thinking it would be a draw. Would you be happy with a point away from home against the top team, Patrick?
I would be ecstatic, to be honest. I think it would be brilliant. Not just because it would be a good result against. Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, to call it in form is probably a bit of an understatement, but I just think it would be good, just for ourselves as well. I mean, we've got some more tough games coming up after we play at your place. So I think get that point, and they got to move us up to 20 points. Yeah, I mean, I think it would do us wonders after a couple of bad results.
And Craig, I asked you this a lot last season, so I'm going to come back to it. But it has a different feel for it. Would you take a point at this stage? I mean, we've got to draw a game eventually, surely. Yeah. I mean, we haven't yet. I thought Swansea was a draw. I must admit, I'm having to go for 2-2 because it was the 2-2 that I actually put into the prediction league. Although I have got a sneaky feeling, having seen the last couple of results for Sunderland, we might do it. But would you take a point at this stage?
I don't think we're at a stage where I would, to be honest, because I think we're playing well enough that we go into, as much as we say we think this is going to be a tough game. I think we go into most games thinking we're going to win and being disappointed if we drop points, to be honest. So even though I've said 2-2, I don't think I'd be. If you said all right, we can have a point and we don't play the game, then no. I think I'd still sneakily fancy our chances to get something. But
I think it's interesting to see how the fans will react to the loss, because for me, when we lost the Hull game, whilst we had the chances to win that, it just wasn't our day. And fair play to Hull, they came and got the win 1-0. But I was almost not glad that we lost, because you never want your team to lose. But it was a case of thank God we've got that loss out the way, because the further we went into the season not having lost, then it would be harder to lose. And I just think if we lose now, it will be a different reaction to losing against Hull.
Yeah, I think it is very much about performance as well as results. And I think the fans, if there's a solid performance there, I think the fans will accept that, you are going to lose some games. It's a tough league. We said it from the off. It's a tough league. There's a lot of games. The chances of you going through and not losing is almost impossible. And so I think if the team just plays the way that we know that they can, and they continue to show the effort, and it is clear that this is a team, more than the last couple of seasons, which tended to be a collection of individuals. I think the team ethic here is above and beyond any individual. So as long as that is shown out on the pitch, then I think most fans will accept a loss if the team has turned up.
Well, Mike, who is a Newport fan, he lives in Newport. his Premier League team, as a lot of clubs in those divisions seem to also have, is Man United. So he's no affiliation to Leicester at all. And sorry, Patrick, but he's gone for 4-1 to Leicester. And I like the cut of that man's jib. I'm going to be honest with you. Well said, Mike. Patrick, I'd wish you all the best, but of course, we know we wouldn't mean it. Apart from tomorrow night and in the return fixture, like I say, I predict you to go up in second, so don't let me down. Good luck for the rest.
He says that to everyone who comes on, Patrick.
Is that just a sweetener?
What I'm not telling him is I also in Middlesbrough to be in the playoffs, but I'm keeping that one quiet.
Yeah, I mean, I think from what I've seen in Middlesbrough, I think they're going to go on. I mean, they're on a good run, but I think they're going to go on some run now because I think Carrick's, he's got them click now.
He has.
They look very good.
But thank you so very much for coming on. Do you want to again just give everybody, your link is in the description below, but just give everybody a reminder where they can follow you?
So obviously I'm part of Roker Report. We've got, Twitter, Instagram. We have podcasts and loads of articles sort of pre and post match. And we'll have plenty of build up on there ahead of the match tomorrow and the fallout, whatever the score is, whatever the result.
Honestly, our post matches were so depressing it was just literally me and Brad just said, "Oh look, just watch last week's. It's exactly the same," So, but anyway, thanks very much, mate. We're going to talk a bit more Leicester now, so we'll let you go. But thank you so very much for coming in. I say, apart from tomorrow and the return fixture, good luck for the rest of the season.
No problem. Same to you guys. Cheers, having us on.
All the best, mate.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thanks to Patrick for coming in there. Great guy. And I do wish them all the best. I do like Sunderland.
Yeah, I'm going to say big club, great support, great stadium. And in many ways, a similar team and club to us. Where we've all had our shares of ups and downs. They've had to wait quite a while for any major success, but there's definitely
just looking at where they have been. I've closed the window now, but yes, they have been out quite a while. But look, I let Patrick go because I was going to ask him and involve him in the discussion about the classic game, but from what he said earlier, he wouldn't have watched that because it was pre his time. So makes us feel like Waldorf and whatever he's called at the
Statler and Waldorf.
Statler and Waldorf at the Muppets. But look, let's have a look at this game here. Now I remember this game, but I mean that picture there. I mean I've got that signed by Stan Collymore up on the wall. It was the flukiest hat trick ever, I think. But talk us through it. What a game!
Yeah, I think that's a bit harsh. The flukiest hat trick ever.
Well,
I think the
third one was, in fairness.
The third one was. I mean, it was. It was the game that sort of teased us, wasn't it, about what the future may hold for a Collymore and Heskey front line. And that all disappeared very, very quickly. I think Heskey went off to Liverpool, and as we know, Stan got injured not long afterwards as well, and it was the end of his Leicester career as well. But on that particular day, I mean, the 5-2, the hat trick, the first goal. I mean, if you're not sure what that first goal was in this game, and you do go down to the matches, then it's part of the pre-match goal fest that is on the screen every week, every home game. That goal where he sort of hooks it over his shoulder almost into the top corner, and then you've got the guy in the stand sort of going mental. But fantastic and perfect, flicked on by Heskey, and he just. It's a player who was playing at the height of confidence. Hadn't gone really well for him at Villa, and I think that's how he ended up with us. But just smacked it first time, and then the second goal as well. I was watching it back earlier today. That's a really good header. Cross comes in, and he's headed it from not far away from the edge of the box, and it's got to be some header to score those
when
kind of
you
goals.
say that you want them to put their head through it,
Yeah.
that is the epitome of that, isn't it?
Perfect timing of header onto ball and perfect positioning, and the keeper didn't stand a chance. Which, as I say, is rare when you're talking about a header from near the edge of the box. And then obviously between there we had Heskey's goal, which again, watching it back, wasn't the best finish. It was one of those that sort of trundled past the keeper, but you take it.
Yeah.
Nice through ball by Lennon, and then Stan crops up for his hat trick where I think he tries to roll it in or just cushion it in and manages to get just enough stud. I think if he'd have changed this into half time, it wouldn't have gone in.
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't have gone in with today with wearing
No.
the blades or
Yeah.
whatever they wear on the feet, but he just had enough on it to trundle it over the line. And then I think it's Steph Oakes finished the rout with a 5-2. But no, great game. But then, as I say, we always thought this was going to be a strike partnership that would take us on to more glory. I think in the end, we finished 7th that season. Sunderland finished 8th. So wasn't a bad season for both of us. But sadly, that Collymore Heskey.
Well, we lost Heskey, like you say. We lost Collymore, and I think at the end of the season that was when we lost O'Neill as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that it was probably the highlight of the season, wasn't it?
It was. Brad always says this. Stan Collymore was the one that got away. Yeah,
I think it was just timing, wasn't it? I think he got that really bad injury. I'm not sure if it was against Derby or whatever, but I think
it was. Yes.
Yeah, but he had that bad injury, and I don't. To be honest, I'm not sure he ever came back in anywhere near the player he has. But he's gone on to have a decent career as an online spokesman, and fair play to him.
Yeah, and I mean he did go on to play for Bradford for a few years.
Yeah.
So and if anybody wants to know, I think he explains where he's looking at when he's doing that. You can go on to LTID TV, go on to the Talk Zone where we talk with past players, and Stan did an interview for us and was explaining all about his time. And in fairness, I'm not saying he was complimentary about Peter Taylor, but he was polite, shall we say. Which is the nicest way. And of course, the two players that you would expect to score for Sunderland, like you say, the ex-player who, well, I wasn't at that game, but I'm taking it you were, and Phillips, and Niall Quinn, of course, who went on to own Sunderland for a while.
He did. I mean, that goal of Phillips was just fantastic. Again,
yes,
just outside the edge of the box, flicked inside to him, and instinctive. The goal doesn't move. I'll just get a good connection on it and right in the corner.
Yes.
But yeah, we were just too strong on the day.
We were. I can't argue with that. What might have been, but there we go. Craig, thank you so very much. Hopefully, we're both wrong and we don't get any points and Leicester come away with the win.
I'll take that.
We'll take that, won't we? We'll take that.
Yeah.
You might or might not be here on Thursday for the QPR. Is it we're playing next?
It's QPR away, isn't it?
QPR away.
I think I said when we were doing the Swansea show whether they'll have the same manager by then. I'm not sure. They had another defeat at the weekend, and I think he's on a slippery slope. And
it's almost like destined that's going to be the game. If we do that, next game we lose will be QPR away, because that's the one we expect to win more than any other.
Yeah, true.
But let me know anyway about Thursday.
Yeah, I will do. Hopefully I'll know tomorrow.
Brilliant. And just give a shout out if you want where people can follow you.
Yeah, you can follow me. Best place is Twitter, just at Craig Bird.
There we go. And of course, I didn't play this for you when you came in.
Here is wise man from ancient times.
Just for you, Craig. Just Indeed. For you. You need to grow the beard. You do need to grow the beard. Craig, thank you very much. Fingers crossed. And we'll see you hopefully on Thursday.
Yeah. Cheers, Chris. Cheers, Take everyone. Care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Thanks to Craig there. And I'll be back tomorrow. Yes, I will. You can't get rid of me. I shall be back for that. The watch along show from 7:15 tomorrow. Leicester City versus Sunderland. I believe it's available on one of the Sky channels or Red Buttons or something like that. But why not join in the watch along? I've got to say a huge thank you to everybody who joined us for the watch along at the weekend against Swansea. I think we have just gone over 3.3 thousand views for that match. It was really so busy on there. Thanks to Mike who was modding in that. It was busy, but yeah, we just hit 3.3 thousand for that. So really pleased with that. Let's see if we can do it again tomorrow for the watch along. 7:15 here tomorrow. Thanks to everybody that has been in the chat. Really do appreciate it. Nate, Leon, Mark, Boris, to name it a few. LCFC popped in. David Newton, thank you so much, mate, for becoming a new member. Really do appreciate it. Keep a lookout. If you want to come on at all, I don't know if you follow me at Twitter at LeicesterTID as a member. If you want to come on and do a show, that's one of the privileges you get of being a member. Just $1.99 of your good old English money every month. Delboy was in earlier. I'm guessing he's gone now. LDH as well. Thanks very much. And if you've been listening on your favourite podcast station, thank you very much for doing that as well. You can have your ears back now. This has been LTID TV. I've been Chris. This is Arnie. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.